grown ass man. Why the fuck are you tickling me?
Hold on. 1 second. Ready? Let me feed you.
Not placing.
Hello, everyone who said they weren't going to be drinking for November and then the election happened. My name's Jamie.
And I'm Peter.
And this is another beautiful, wonderful episode of
Drunk and Demon.
I didn't know you were going to say that. I'm sorry.
We're going to harmonize it.
Drunk and Demon. See. All right, let's pour. We usually start with a pour, but we started with a intro. So,
cheers, motherfucker.
Cheers, motherfucker. Ooh, it's cold.
Sat in the car for a while.
That makes sense. Well, we already went through all of our name intros, so we already talked about an episode of Drunk and Demonic. So, Peter, why don't you go ahead and tell us what we're going to be covering today?
Today, for the most part, we're going to be covering the Central City graveyards. We have 3 that we're going to mention primarily. There's also one that is going to be kind of included, but not a big part of the story. We will also be covering a little bit of ghost history around Central City and the Blackhawk area, located here in Colorado. The only place, I think, right, that gambling casinos are legalized.
Then you also go up in Cripple Creek.
She says me.
Blackhawk, Central City, and Cripple Creek are the only 3 places in Colorado that you can gamble.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize. I forgot about Cripple Creek.
So to a layman or not smart person, we are just covering Central City.
Is a layman?
I don't know what.
I think it's.
Let's stay on topic.
Maybe people that aren't of the Jewish faith were laymans.
I know. I just think of lemmings.
Yeah, but that's not what it means.
I feel like we're getting besides ourselves, and
we are beside ourselves.
I feel you didn't say that you have you're not ominous Pete, you're not dark Pete.
No, I'm just Pete today.
I figured you're easily distracted Pete. I know it hurts, but we are only 4 minutes in, and we're already distracted. Would you hear that? What'd you find?
Did you hear that?
Case in point, Peter.
I'm back in the podcast again. My bad.
So yes, we're covering. For everyone who's still listening, we are covering the Central City cemeteries, or Central City for short. Correct? Am I right?
Correct. Central City, Colorado.
Am I right? Without further ado, my favorite word, why don't we break it into some sponsors tonight? What do we got here in this little skull?
Dude, I forgot to put this up. So we're drinking the same we were drinking last time. Uncle Nearest.
We're poor.
Who is I'm going to call him, he's not a bastard, but he's definitely a pain in the ass uncle of Jack Daniels, who claims that this entire recipe was stolen from him to make Jack Daniels. And he honestly did make a better bourbon, so good on him. He's not nearly as successful, though. This is the first time I've even heard of it, and it was just a couple weeks ago I bought this bottle.
Yeah. So yeah, cheers again.
Sponsor 1.
Wonderful. So we also only have one sponsor because we decided we will do dual share. There's no seltzers. There's just one beer. So take it away, Pete. What do you have in your hand? I'm going to grab one.
Ooh. I do have Thirsty Pretzels, the Fest beer from Storm Peak Brewing, straight up here in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. I have not had a sip of this. Have you?
No. I'm going to show you
Oh, yeah, get in there, dude. Get way up there.
Slow motion for me. Storm Peak Brewery.
Slow motion for me.
The best brewery, can I say, in Steamboat Springs without hurting anyone's feelings? In my personal...
In your opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's just like your opinion.
What's your opinion?
I don't have one.
On anything?
I care not to weigh in on anything.
Damn, my hair looks ratty, dude. It looked like I've worked all night.
We both worked all night.
Work.
All right.
Work.
First drink, cheers, dude.
Cheers off
This
the
is
word.
brand new. Let's see what we think.
Pretzels. Is it doughy?
It tastes a little doughy.
At the end, right?
Yeah, I can get that on the aftertaste.
Looking for
It's
the
exactly
pretzel.
what I expected. It's like an amber ale, I think.
Mhm.
Maybe a little hoppier than a normal amber ale, which I would expect from like a local brewery type of thing. They're going to overhop pretty much everything.
I don't know. I think it's a.
I get a little salt aftertaste.
I like it.
That's not a bad pretzel
I
beer.
think it's a.
I'm not gonna lie. I like, if I'm going to drink a beer, it's usually going to be an amber. I don't much like those IPAs.
Well, that's it. That's all we have for sponsors. So
Yeah, just anyone that's looking for a sponsorship,
we're looking
like for someone that
someone send me beer.
either beer or we are actively taking applications for anything to help with hangovers. So whether you have a place in town that may or may not be a wellness studio, where you may provide
I see.
treatments IV wise, or
I don't think-
lunges,
I don't think they have
or
done.
red light lasers, or something completely different. If you make a perfect drink that is meant for hangovers,
The
not
elixir.
water. We don't want
It's
water.
called Hair of the Dog. It's called a Bloody Mary.
Mythology, get after us. We
Something
need a
like that.
sponsor. That actually would be a good one.
Why don't we just say we're open to sponsors? Someone, please.
Anyone.
We are not desperate. That's for sure.
No.
But
We make enough money to support
Yeah.
a habit.
I feel like we work hard.
We
We
work.
work really hard on this. We work really hard on this. So thank you. We will title that section, not section.
Sex one? Like
We'll
the chicken?
call that Desperate.
Desperado.
Desperate. All right. With that being said, let's go into Hell on Earth, huh?
All right.
You got something.
I'm gonna break the ice.
You got something brewing. What's up?
I think that we can't go any further in this episode without like saying a little bit about the most important story of the week.
Dance
Have you
with the stars?
About Peanut the Squirrel?
I found out this morning.
Peanut the Squirrel, man.
It's devastating.
So for those, okay, so you have heard the story. I'm going to go into it and tell just a little bit about it. There is this man. His name is Mark Longo. He lives in upstate New York, and he has had a pet squirrel living with him for 7 years now.
He has a raccoon too, right?
He does have a raccoon named Fred.
Or
We're going to get into it. Mark Longo and his best friend, Peanut the Squirrel, lived together for 7 years, and they have about, I think it was like a 500,000 or 1 million followers on TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that.
I looked up Instagram today. It was 643,000.
Okay, so he's definitely gotten a bump since this has all come out too. So I'm going to call it 500,000.
Okay.
Right? 500,000.
Damn near.
Yep, damn near. So this guy, Mark, has had this squirrel. He has brought on a couple other animals. He also has some land, so he has brought on horses.
Mm-hmm.
And someone calls in.
Just horses.
Well, he has horses. He has a raccoon. I don't know what other animals he has.
That's all I knew too.
Okay.
Honestly.
So him and Peanut go back 7 years. Peanut, he found on the side of the road after his mom had been hit by a car.
Mm-hmm.
He took the squirrel home with him because the Peanut was also injured in this, apparently.
Okay.
And he nursed it back to health. Apparently he had a broken leg. And Mark actually went and released it back into the forest, like out, like just behind his house.
Yeah.
It came back like 2 weeks later, missing like a chunk of his ear, which is why you can tell that it's him in all these videos because he's missing a little chunk of his ear. At this point, Mark is like, all right, this baby squirrel at this point doesn't know how to exist in nature. I think I'm just going to adopt it.
What a gentleman.
He seems like a pretty cool guy. So anyways,
All right, dude.
cut to 7 years later, someone calls and the Department of Environmental Conservation
Mm-hmm.
shows up at his door, but it's not just them. There are 10 officers that show up at his house. They detain him and his wife, and they make them wait outside their home for 5 hours while they search the entire home. There are 4 different agencies that signed off for a search warrant for this guy's home because of Peanut the Squirrel. Now, there are certainly conspiracies, and we'll talk about those in just a minute. What happens is they find Peanut, and as they're carrying Peanut out, one of the officers is bitten by Peanut.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
Scared. Peanut's scared.
They're pulling him out of the house. He's a little tiny squirrel, and he bites one of the officers. And they immediately say, hey, we need to test this animal for rabies. This is the craziest part of this whole thing. They do not have a test for live animals for rabies. So they have to kill Peanut to test for rabies to see if this officer now has contracted rabies.
And we pray, and we pray, and we pray every day, every day.
By the end of this day, where it's literally an actual raid, there are federal agencies that show up along with these environmental conservatory groups.
Mm-hmm.
And they take both a raccoon from his home, who was actually pretty new to his house, as well as Peanut, who has been there for a long time. And they think that either the neighbors or one of the 500,000 followers on Instagram and TikTok reported him for not having this animal, who's a wild animal, and you're not allowed to have wild animals without a registration. Neither of these animals are registered.
It's a fucking squirrel, dude.
They kill both of these animals.
That way they feel
euthanized. They were euthanized. They were killed.
They feel better about saying,
I get it, but they killed the animals.
mm-hmm.
There was no reason for this.
No,
right?
Not at all.
There's a lot of speculation on like what the reasons for all of this was. And not only did it tie into the election, it became like a rallying cry for the MAGA crowd on government overreach, which like 100% this is government overreach. They came in and took like a pretty happy dude
Mm-hmm.
with an indoor squirrel. You see the video of this dude?
It's awesome.
When he's being interviewed, and he's literally crying, telling the story of how him and his wife have been held outside their home for 5 hours while they searched through the whole house. They're also questioning his wife on her citizenship because she's apparently like Norwegian or something like that. I can't remember, but she's not from the US. So there's this part of it that maybe is like, why are these people doing this? Some people are saying, oh, maybe it's because he has this massive following that also has come from this, where he's making money off of this animal and people are upset about that. But it also is revealed that Mark and his wife have a highly lucrative OnlyFans channel. They're bringing about $800,000 a month through OnlyFans.
By just banging.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he doesn't need
no
this squirrel to provide income for him. It's not like the squirrel is his moneymaker. I don't know what he would make from 500,000 followers on Instagram and TikTok, but I guarantee you it's not $800,000. So they're doing just fine on their own. So it seems strange. People can complain about, yeah, maybe he's like using the animal for some monetary type stuff, but that's not really what was happening.
No,
so
for 7 years would hold on to a squirrel for 7 years.
Dude, the videos are so cute. He's like, he's split little waffles. Like he had like,
I love how he does this.
And it jumps up like
on
the bridge,
jumps
awesome. Counters. It seems like a pretty wholesome story until the government shows up and straight up kills this animal, and I don't love that. So
apparently this is MAGA. People were pissed. I feel was everyone pissed.
Well, everyone's pissed for the most part. There's a couple people that are like, well, he should have had it registered, but like, and that's not wrong. But you're kind of missing the point on like, dude, it was just a guy who had. Honestly, he found this squirrel and tried to release it. It didn't do well in the wild, so he brought it back home, and he was just hanging out with the squirrel. And people got pissed about the fact that this guy was making money just taking videos of his squirrel while making OnlyFans. Now, here's the big thing, though. Do you think Peanut is in the OnlyFans videos?
No,
because that would not be okay with me.
No, you're right. I don't think so.
We put acorns on some titties, and then little Peanut runs in, picks up an acorn, gets out of there.
See,
that could be fucked up.
You're taking this too far.
I'm only
that's a good point. No, I think a dude found a squirrel.
I also am only asking because the name of the OnlyFans channel is Peanut's Daddy.
Oh, maybe. Why didn't you say that first?
Well, I forgot about it, so my bad. I'm bringing it up now.
So I think it's just a guy that got really excited about the fact that a squirrel kept coming back to him, raised it, and then it decided to like
live with him,
to be domesticated.
Yeah.
And she's like, you know what? I successfully have raised this squirrel. Why don't I put it on Instagram so other people can see this?
100%. Yeah, he had this whole, and him and his wife now, they bought this huge property 2 years ago or something like that to build like an animal conservation / like rehabilitation center. And it was called Peanut's Family Friends or something like that. He built an animal sanctuary where like, that's why he had the raccoon, was because someone sent them the raccoon that had been injured and he was rehabilitating it. Now people question, is he just like, whatever you want to say, grooming another animal to make a shit ton of money off of it? But no, he can make his own money. He's doing this thing. He has horses, he has a raccoon, he has a squirrel, and these people showed up and fucked up his whole life because they fucking felt like it.
So this is my thought on this. If you are upset about this guy having an Instagram for his squirrel or his raccoon,
It's so adorable too.
I need you to please stand up, turn this podcast off, go the fuck outside, and get off the goddamn internet. Right?
For sure.
Why the fuck?
If you're like upset about the fact that this guy has a squirrel domesticated and like it bothers you that he didn't have it registered, fuck off. It's the saddest thing.
This is what's wrong with people. Chill the fuck out. Mind your own business.
Yep.
Let someone fucking have a happy squirrel.
Yep.
This is like the people, there's a section of a park in town where you're not allowed to have your dog off leash, but it's like 100 feet until the non-leash spot. And so I let my dog, who's a really good girl, she'll follow me wherever. People are like, your dog needs to be on a leash. I'm like, that dog is literally
right there,
right next to my leg, just walking.
She's terrified of everything. She wouldn't run after anything if she wanted
to go say hi to. Oh yeah. So yes,
your dog is a fucking scaredy cat.
She's a saint.
She is a saint.
We should move on, or else we're going to talk about Peanut the Squirrel.
We can't talk about Peanut all night. I had to address the elephant in the room and talk about the biggest news story of the week.
That is 100%. There's nothing else happened.
Yeah.
That could beat that.
Jamie, what do you got?
A hard act to follow is what I have. So I think I told you about this, but I really dug into it a little bit. The fact that, I don't know if you know the comedian Tom Segura.
I know Tom.
Yeah.
I don't know Tom. I know who you're mentioning when you mentioned Tom Segura. Love it.
Yeah. So
one of my favorites.
So Tom Segura, comedian.
Yep.
In the circle with Rogan, Kill Tony, Bert Kreischer.
Yep.
Two successful podcast
network. I'm surprised that they're not
in your mom's house.
Yeah, but no, I'm surprised that they're not under the Rogan umbrella, right?
No,
Rogan does his own thing.
He just fucking wants to do that.
That seems so crazy. I would have if I was Joe Rogan, I would take all of my good friends and I would put them all on my network and make so much fucking money producing their shows.
Well, that's what Tom Segura does.
Okay.
He produces like 6 or 7. It's okay. So
bad. I saw your look.
Joe Rogan doesn't want to do that. He just wants to record.
No, Joe wants people to do his thing.
And that's it.
Yep.
So Tom Segura does that. He has a lot of other podcasts. So yeah, there's this big world of all these comedians, if you're familiar with them. If you've ever listened to Your Mom's House, they have this running joke about Garth Brooks.
Yes.
And it's actually that's got to where Garth Brooks has actually blocked all comments from anyone
on his videos because the troll army that follows Tom Segura is out of control.
Well, so they made one joke on their podcast about how they thought Garth Brooks is a serial killer. And they said, "Where are the bodies, Chi?" And they made this joke about it. And for years, I'd say maybe 4 or 5 years, like people just comment on Garth Brooks'
where the bodies?
Everything. People, these families need answers. Just like calling Garth Brooks a serial killer. This is not the thickening of the story. So the story now is that there are people on the internet that are tying Tom Segura into the Lady Bird Lake killings.
Right. Okay. Continue.
Okay.
I know. You know. Lash onto this, but I'm going to let you keep going.
So if you go onto TikTok or YouTube, there are these videos linking Tom Segura into Austin, Texas for 2 of the people that were missing during the Lady Bird Lake. They put them close to where Tom Segura was shooting specials. And they also tie one of the people that died in Phoenix, Arizona, the same time that Tom Segura was
at another lake.
Yeah. And they like talk about how they think, and they show like how Tom Segura has definitely like been brought up on his podcast about the Lady Bird Lake killings. And he like very much dismisses it. He's like, oh yeah, whatever. These people got drunk and fell in. Blah, blah. And he like changes the subject quite a bit. Like Tim Dillon was on his show with Bert Kreischer
and brought it up.
And then Tom Segura is like, no, whatever. These people were drunk. They fell in. Changes the subject.
You think this is maybe... No. Whoa, okay.
I'm going to get into it.
Keep going.
In a sec. So
I don't quite know where you're landing here.
There's also a bunch of... Like the most recent Your Mom's House has Dr. Drew on it.
Yeah.
And he says... Because Christina P., Tom Segura's wife, is complaining about how all he wants to do, everything he wants to watch is just documentaries about serial killers.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah.
Not just...
It's a red flag. I've seen it. I've seen the reports. Everyone that says, if your significant other loves horror movies and specifically falls asleep watching horror documentaries or serial killer documentaries, it's a red flag.
We both do that.
Yeah, I know. Continue.
Okay. So Dr. Drew, after Christina P. was complaining about it, he goes, I've told you this before. I've warned you. You need to watch out, Christina. And they all laugh.
But he doesn't laugh. Dr. Drew's very serious. He's not a fuck around guy. Which is so funny. Why would they even have him on?
So my personal take is the person that makes most of the videos tying him to these killings, at the end of every single one, he fades out with a big G, a Garth Brooks logo.
Okay.
And that's it. I think this is a Garth Brooks fan that's like, you know what? You want to fuck with my favorite artist? I'm going to fuck with you. That's my take.
All right. I've mentioned this take to you, and I can't remember I don't know if you remember me mentioning this take to you. So, what if it's not even a fan? What if it is G himself?
What if Garth Brooks did this?
Okay.
You'd think he'd have more than 500 views on the video.
You'd think. But he's not releasing this as Garth Brooks. He's not releasing this as Chris Gaines even.
So, yeah.
I have just seen recent commercials where Garth Brooks is advocating the shit out of Habitat for Humanity. And for anyone that is familiar with horror television, there is, to me, a pretty significant tie-in to the Trinity killings and Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks is tied into Habitat for Humanity. Why would he not be killing people? If Garth Brooks is this serial killer that they say he is, the bodies have never been found. They say where the bodies, G.
Where are the bodies?
You know why they're not found?
Why?
It's because they're buried in the foundation.
They're the goddamn houses.
Habitat for Humanity. Because he's been tied in with them for quite some time, which is the same exact thing that the Trinity killer did in the Dexter series.
All I have to say about that is,
where are the bodies, G?
No.
Let's dig up the houses.
So, I was going to say blame it all on my roots.
You showed up in boots?
Ruined your house that you built.
Your black tie affair?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, you know what, G? We're about to ruin your black tie affair.
So you think...
Oh, I think this is him, dude.
You think he started spin it on Tom Segura?
I think they're having a fun game with each other.
Either they're both serial killers.
They're both serial killers.
Fucking psychos, dude. He didn't write
and they're taunting each other.
Garth Brooks didn't write the dance either, just so you know. He didn't write any of his songs.
What? Who wrote it?
Some guy in Nashville that played at the Blues Bottom.
I'm sure none of those songs have, like, all the country songs are written by other people.
Exactly.
Anyways, that's like a little personal spin-off that I was like, hey, as soon as literally the second I saw, because like I know about the theory of Garth Brooks is a serial killer, Segura is behind that whole thing. As soon as I saw the Habitat for Humanity commercials, was like, he's fucking doing it, dude. Literally, he watched Dexter and he's like, yep, I'm just going to get rid of all the bodies. I'm going to kill someone and I'm going to fucking bury their body. He can go to whatever the fucking Habitat for Humanity house he wants to. They're building a foundation. He's just going to fucking go there whenever he wants, take a body. They'll probably let him. He's given that much money.
Now you're going too far. They're not going to let him just murder someone.
No. They'll let him in whenever he wants. Like, hey, I want to show up and check out the house at 2 a.m.
I don't think there's a lot of places where Garth Brooks is going to get said no to either. Like, is it Garth Brooks? Yeah, you can come to Chick-fil-A on Sunday.
We'll open.
Yeah, he gets to go wherever he wants.
Dang, that's a wild theory. You think Chick-fil-A opens for Sunday and for Garth Brooks?
Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude.
Wow, that's wild. Dude, I love that.
Transition.
I think we're transitioning.
Yeah. What do you have, sir? Well, we're going to go for some horror news.
You should watch anything, dummy? I watched something I like.
Ooh, you don't like it, huh?
I watched Skinamarink.
Making best use of that Shudder account you got.
Do you know anything about this movie? Before I talk anything about this movie, do you know anything about it?
No, I've never watched it.
Have you seen the Instagram? Like, what I've seen is like, I'm guessing that they're TikTok things that have come over to Instagram. The scariest movies that have ever been made, kind of thing. And they rate like heart rate versus peak heart rates, resting heart rate while watching the movie, and then peak heart rate. They rated Skinamarink like fucking way high. I watched this movie.
How was it?
I wish I could have an hour and a half of my life back. It's the worst fucking... I honestly can say Skinamarink is the worst movie I have ever seen. Not horror movie. The worst movie I have ever seen. I will say that with the acknowledgement that I understand it is an experimental movie, and there are certain parts of the movie that are maybe they could be scary. This is the worst fucking movie I've ever seen. Save yourself an hour and a half. Do not watch it. The movie was an hour and 20 minutes too long.
Could have been 10 minutes is what you're saying.
A 10-minute movie. It was literally, it felt like I was back in 2009 when I first went to college, and all of my friends said like, oh, like, you just don't understand this movie. That's what I felt like people were telling me when I watched this movie by myself. This movie is the boringest movie I've ever seen. There's nothing scary about it. It literally, I'm like angry that I even have to fucking talk about this movie.
I could tell. Why'd you watch it then, dude? Because
I heard great things, and I expected the movie started out in this very like, oh, this is kind of like,
well, it's trying to get the steam off my head. I'm mad for you.
The movie started out in this weird format, and I was like, okay, like this is interesting. Like, when does it get to the actual movie? It literally never does. So like, you know, when they like open up a movie and it's like, oh, these are like kind of weird shots that they're doing where they're like, oh, like you can see like some footprints over here, and like, oh, they're like looking at someone's legs. It's an hour and a half of that kind of shit. It never goes to a real movie. The plot line is that there's two children, a boy and a girl. The boy hurts himself and gets taken to the hospital. This is before the movie starts.
Bummer.
The boy hurts. He comes back to the house afterwards. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, the parents disappear. Well, I guess maybe the mom's not around the whole time. I can't quite follow it, because the movie's confusing as shit and it doesn't make any fucking sense. Then the kids are like, oh, like, where's dad? I don't know. And then they just go down and they like kind of watch a little television. And then from there, the doors just are gone. There's no doors or windows in the house anymore. But you know what? It's not quite like what you'd think it would be, where like we'd have a full spectrum of the room and then all of a sudden like things just disappear. No, it's this little tiny corner that you see where like you can see like a foot, and then like all of a sudden it flashes up to the ceiling, and then like the door disappears, and then it flashes back to a foot. It's the dumbest fucking movie I've ever seen.
I won't watch it then.
Please don't.
No, I'm going. No,
like I only want you to watch it so that you can tell me that I'm right and I'm not a fucking asshole for ripping this entire movie to pieces. I would give it 0.5 out of 10. And every horror movie for me gets 5 points immediately.
Yeah, that's true.
0.5. It's the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life. What's the worst movie you've ever seen? I hate to put you on the spot like this. Like, now you have to come up with something. What's a really bad movie?
The Saint with Val Kilmer.
I haven't seen it.
It was a terrible movie. I remember watching it as a kid and leaving.
I guarantee you it's like...
Where Alien versus Predator was bad too.
Infinitely better than this movie. And I get it. They're doing an experimental thing, but an experimental movie should last about
You're
10 minutes.
You're beating a dead horse.
Fuck
dude.
this movie.
I know. You're so mad.
Your turn. Wait. Do not watch Skinamarink. Take my advice. Don't fucking waste an hour and a half of your life. Just fucking stop. Now you're up. I'm so fucking mad that I wasted my time on this fucking show to even talk about it, but I have to let everyone know that this movie is not worth it. Do not do it.
You just said that. You're okay.
If you liked this movie, please come here and fight me. Now you can go.
He's not that strong.
I'm not. I just care that much about saying fuck you to this movie.
So let me guess. It was experimental. And that's what made you mad. I didn't really watch anything. Just kidding. I finished Grotesquery.
Okay.
The whole season. The season finale was on Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
So I finished that. Got a lot of bad reviews. Like, a lot of people didn't really like it. It was confusing as shit.
Right. I heard it had like an M. Night Shyamalan kind of twist.
Who'd you hear that from? I told you that.
No, it was Jeff over at Mambo.
So there's an M. Night Shyamalan twist. Then you get confused. And then you kind of like come to and figure out that twist. And then they have another one.
What?
There's a double.
The double twist.
There's a double twist.
Double Lamalan.
But which, once it gets to that said second twist, I'm like, all right. Honest with you, I was kind of pissed off.
Yeah, I asked you because like you were like, hey, you should watch this movie. And I was like, all right. Show. Yeah. And I was like, all right, like I'll check it out because you were talking about it last episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey, I just heard from a buddy of mine. They're like,
it was a while ago.
Fucking, it gets fucked up. Don't watch it. And then you're like, maybe don't watch it. And then you're like, let you know.
I text you like, hey, I just got to the middle of Grotesquery. I don't know about this anymore. And you're like, oh, why? I'm like, whatever. I'll keep watching and let you know if it's interesting.
And now you're doing it.
I'd say watch it.
Okay.
There's definitely 2 spins. If anyone hasn't watched it, like this first one, I feel like was kind of dumb, but it kind of ties into it being longer.
Do they kind of like make the first one dumb to make the second one better?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. See, like, and I can like, I appreciate that. Cause like when you like, oh, we're doing twists. If you make the first one like intentionally, like, dude, fuck that. Like, you risk losing your viewers.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's done for the sake of making the show better, I can get a little on board with that.
I think it's a long game for sure.
Okay. You think there's a second season?
100%.
Okay. They set it up well.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
then fine.
I'll great at doing no spoilers. I also
literally, you didn't mention. You literally said you haven't even said what the show is about.
I didn't. Not in this one.
I don't even think on the last one you said what it was about.
I didn't. Well, because I didn't.
It was like a detective that's investigating a murder.
All I said was it was a drunk cop and a nun who butt up together to kind of
like a funny cop thing,
solve these religious murders.
Yeah,
it's like cultish religious murders.
Okay.
And then there's a bunch of twists. I think you should watch it.
I'll check it out.
Yeah,
I definitely will. So you got in horror news, you're saying just plug in and watch Grotesquery.
Yes.
It's worth it.
I think so, yeah.
By the end, it's worth it.
Yes.
All right, man.
Stick to the end.
And I'm in. I'll watch the whole thing. All right.
All right. Do you need a moment or something? I feel like you're still really mad about Skinamarink.
I literally held it down for the first like 30 minutes of this episode, and then I had to fucking just unleash. I've got some clarity. I'm ready to keep moving.
You got Peanut right into Skinamarink.
Well, dude, yeah, I had Peanut, and like that one was upsetting, dude. It was. That's a sorry story, man. It makes me say it.
Well, that being said, like, do you want to get into the main thing?
I think I'm ready to go to the main thing.
All right. Please excuse me real quick. I make Piddle. All right, welcome back. Let's get into this main event. Peter, are you feeling? You okay?
I'm all right, dude. I'm still upset.
You know what you need?
What?
You want me to baby bird you?
We're grown-ass men.
Hold on.
Why the fuck are you tickling me?
Hold on. 1 second. Hold on. Ready? Let me feed you.
I'm not going to let you stick that.
Let me feed you. I fucking worked out so hard that I do my arms. I can't do it.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
All right, stop.
No, it's fun.
See, it's like you make fun of me for being ridiculous, but here you are trying to fucking fuck my face with whiskey.
I was just trying to feed you, baby bird.
I'm not okay with that. Are you going to introduce the main event? Or do you want me to do it?
You're the fucking guy that does the main events, and you know that.
Okay.
Hey, drink and get mad at
Tonight's main event. You're right. Tonight's main event, we're going to be covering Central City and primarily its graveyards. So, Central City, located in Colorado, is about an hour and a half from Denver.
Mm-hmm.
You'd say?
Damn near.
Central City's discovery of gold triggered like a huge gold rush right around the time of the Pikes Peak gold rush. It drew thousands to the area. It was known as the richest square mile on Earth as the town exploded with wealth and activity. By the mid-1870s, the town had a stunning population of 10,000 residents.
When did you say that? I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
1870.
1870?
Do you know what the population of Steamboat is right now?
22,000.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When I was
in high school, yeah, exactly. When I was in high school, it was just over 9,000.
Yeah, it was 9 when I moved here, and now I would say...
Imagine cramming that many fucking people into that little fucking valley.
No way.
It's
very small.
It's a disaster on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
As the gold veins dried up, though, in the late 1800s, the town faced rapid decline. By the early 20th century, Central City had become nearly deserted, and to this day, only a few hundred residents remain, leaving behind historic buildings, tales of fortune, and a series of cemeteries where former miners, families, and community figures are buried.
I think I read that currently there's 683 people total.
Residents.
That live in.
The population is it's under 1,000 people.
Yeah. Do most people live in Blackhawk?
There's
nowhere to live in Blackhawk either. Dude. Yeah, it makes sense. They probably live somewhere else.
Although I think that maybe my guess is in the casinos for employee, they probably have housing there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
You think? That would be my guess. They're we don't expect you to drive a fucking hour.
Central City seems more homey. Well, if you go up to that road,
Central City is more homey. Once you get to whatever the main road is though that divides that little gap in the canyon.
There's definitely Netherland up close to.
That's so much further.
No, maybe 30 minutes, right? Up that road.
But that's Boulder.
Yeah, but if you take that road, where you turn in to get to Blackhawk, if you go up another 20 miles, you get to Netherland. And then you go over and then you're back to...
Netherland connects to Central City, but it's way over there. It's
How far? What did you say?
20 miles.
Yeah, that's what I just said. It's not far. People can live there.
It's far when you have to drive 25 to 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, good point.
You're not going 60. You're going well under the speed limit or normal highway speed.
Normal driving speeds.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sorry for interrupting.
My bad.
Go ahead.
So Central City's heyday was really during the westward expansion, and the lifestyle and Central City itself still reflect that of the Wild West, to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree?
100%.
We were just there.
Very old-timey casino-y.
I guess
for sure.
We should mention this now, or I was going to mention it at the end.
Yeah, we'll go in at the end.
All right. When you combine the attitude of the Wild West, add to the fact that beer and liquor were safer options than local water, and also a staggering population crammed into a small space, death is certain to follow. Central City is dotted with various cemeteries, each tied to different organizations like the Masons, particularly the Freemasons, Knights of Pythias, and each group has their own eerie legacy that has their own unique hauntings surrounding their own groups. At this point, all right, so the first cemetery that we're going to talk about tonight is the Knights of Pythias Cemetery.
Okay.
The Knights of Pythias is a lodge established during the Civil War in the United States. The Knights of Pythias was an offshoot of a Scottish elders lodge that sought to promote friendship and loyalty.
That's all it was?
Every other fucking lodge.
So what's a lodge? Just like an Elks Lodge?
Yeah, exactly.
Just like a group of good old boys?
Dudes. It's a bunch of
good
guys
boys. Like
that hang out and don't tell their wives shit.
So they make up a story. That way they can hang out and drink beer.
Yeah, we have to go to meetings. We also could go to meetings, but we choose not to.
Yeah, that first step is admitting you have a problem.
I don't have a problem.
You got it. Exactly. No, exactly.
I have a good time.
Start a lodge.
Many of the members of the Knights of Pythias were drawn to Central City. All of these, it's going to be the same story for all of them. They were drawn to Central City specifically because of the gold rush.
Yeah.
And they obviously they had their own cemetery when they passed, because lots of these men moved from the East Coast in this crazy westward expansion because there was gold in them hills.
And then they damn near died.
No, they didn't damn near die. They did die. The Knights of Pythias Cemetery has been known for mysterious ghostly figures that have been sighted wandering the graves, often dressed in Puritic clothing with somber expressions. Some thought that these are former members who died in tragic mining accidents specifically.
Makes sense.
There's a procession of ghosts that march through the cemetery.
What?
Yep. Many visitors have reported a procession of apparitions that seem to be performing a ritualistic walk among the graves at dusk. Witnesses say these strange spectral figures move in silence, creating an ominous and surreal atmosphere.
Like a march?
Yep. Like, specifically men walking like a procession. Like, they're all walking in a line, like...
Yeah. Going somewhere.
It wasn't me.
You shaggy me.
On the counter.
I was doing Lion King. All right, so...
Tommy banging on the sofa.
Even caught me.
It wasn't
shower. I digress.
All right, there's also like a really often sighting of a lone figure who stands near the cemetery entrance, almost as if he's guarding it. Legend has it that he is a former knight who died defending his comrades in that area against an Indian attack.
At the cemetery area.
Exactly.
Is he buried there?
I do not know that specifically.
Okay.
There are also reports of a woman. Yeah, he's just someone that, like, the reports I've seen are like kind of silly. He does like the stereotypical like gun over the shoulder kind of thing, where he walks and then he just like does like a big ass turn and then he splits the other way and then he goes back into like walking the other way. They call him the Lone Sentinel.
That sounds like something Ghost Adventures would say they saw.
They might.
Yeah, that's about it.
There's that guy.
Okay.
There are also reports, this is actually like kind of interesting, of a woman that wears 80s track style clothing. So she's in like a tracksuit. Okay. From the 80s. Yep. So I don't think a lot of ghost stories feature people from somewhat current times. It's all like periodic, like from the 1800s. It's from the early 1900s. It's really weird to have someone within the last 30 years haunting a graveyard. But specifically, there's this woman that shows up specifically like an Adidas red tracksuit that has like the white stripes going down with like a red tracksuit.
We're all familiar. It's a great look.
I don't know. I love it, man. But
you're right. Like literally everything is.
She's at the back end of the graveyard, and for some reason, like no one's been buried there for damn near 100 years.
Even this lady.
Why
is she wearing a tracksuit?
Don't know. She's definitely reported to be there, though. They think she's a granddaughter that is protecting her grandfather's grave.
What sources?
That's what I'd say. Fuck around and find out. That's what I say.
I don't believe it. Sounds like hoopla.
I don't, but like that one is like,
yeah.
I've seen like 5 or 6 reports on people seeing a woman that is like, not, because you see lots of reports of people that are, no matter where you go in graveyards, it's a ghost from the 1800s, it's a ghost from the 1700s, it's a ghost from the 1900s. This is a ghost from the 80s. It's really weird to see someone like that.
Well, I just assumed that everyone from the 1800s and the early 1900s just had a hard time letting go.
They did. You think that the
80s,
the 1980s was like, I don't care.
I'm all fucked up on cocaine, dude. Let's hear some more.
Play some more Houston.
Goddamn, Whitney, let's do it.
I just want to dance with somebody.
Who doesn't, dude?
Next, Pythias. These hauntings tie back to the fraternity's values of loyalty and protection, speculating that perhaps these spirits feel they must continue to protect their brethren in the afterlife.
Good for them.
Our next cemetery is going to be the Oddfellows Cemetery. Now, the Oddfellows are maybe not so much mentioned. It's really hard to find a lot of information on them. It's called the Independent Order of Oddfellows. It was founded on principles of charity and fraternity. Many Oddfellows were early settlers and miners who met untimely deaths in Central City.
And that's the only place where they're known? Is the Oddfellows?
No, they're
Okay.
all across the U.S.
Okay.
I've
never heard of them.
All of these are like very prolific.
We've heard of them.
So, okay.
I've heard of Knights of Pythias. I've heard of Knights of culminates.
That is correct.
I've heard
Okay.
of the Freemasons, but I've never heard of the Oddfellows. Other than
Knights of Pythias is the second recognized lodge or fraternity group
Mm-hmm.
in the United States, only preceded by the Freemasons,
Okay.
who we will be covering after the Oddfellows.
Okay.
But the Oddfellows are an interesting group of people. They seem to be, from what I've seen through all of this, and I don't know the Oddfellows super well before this, interested in pagan rituals and ritualistic magic is what I would call it.
That makes sense.
The Oddfellows practiced a range of ceremonies which some believe left behind at these cemeteries, like a distinctly residual energy that fuels hauntings. There are tons, and especially the Oddfellows Cemetery, tons of strange sightings. People experience stuff all the time. There are shadow figures that like move between grave sites or behind trees, or like go through people, and people have reported seeing shadowy figures moving and coming through them and feeling like traditional type stuff cold. They feel the chill of a shadow figure.
Yeah.
The other thing that is 100% in the Oddfellows cemeteries is the ritual circles. And they are massive. Like, I mean, and I don't want to say massive. They're not that big. They're not much bigger than this.
Tell me when.
Bigger.
Tell me when.
We're talking about like 12 feet, 10 to 12 feet, 10 to 12
10 to 12 feet. Circle.
in diameter.
Is a circle.
And these stones are specifically like local to Colorado. They are granite, they are quartz crystals that are laid out in these circles. And they 100% are used in ritualistic ceremonies for the Oddfellows community.
And that's still to this day?
To this day. They still go up there.
Motherfucker.
There have been some, and I tried to find as much as I could on this, but I didn't see a whole lot about freak accidents or equipment like malfunctioning, hedge trimmers or weed whackers and stuff like that going down, completely broken in the Oddfellows Cemetery.
Like,
Because-
look that up. Is that something that happens there?
Oh, it's just something that they think that is tied to like these weird ritual, like these rings of stones specifically. And anyone goes in with EMF, is that what we're looking at?
Mm-hmm.
Recorders.
Mhm.
It blows up. People stand in the middle of it and it goes literally, it doesn't matter where they turn. It's just all over the place.
What?
And it, like the EMF recorders lead them to it. Like you can see the energy. And as soon as they're inside, it literally just spins the dial around. It's pretty crazy stuff.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah. Some locals claim that the circles that are drawn are portals to the spirit world. Some people mention that like maybe in the daylight, these cemeteries, like you can access another dimension.
During the daylight.
Not during
In
the night,
these circles.
because they close during the day or during the nighttime, which is interesting.
All 600 people that live in Central City believe this. Just locals. Sounds like supernatural.
It's definitely supernatural.
I mean, like the show.
Okay.
Yes, all this is definitely supernatural. I mean, it sounds like this show, supernatural.
The cemetery itself, like people report like feeling heavy doses of energy, which is taxing on a body.
Mm-hmm.
If you're sensitive to that kind of thing, it weighs on you. You can feel energy from these things, and it kind of drains it out of you. So
Yes.
that's what people report.
Okay.
Our last cemetery that we're going to cover is the Masonic Cemetery.
That's a big one.
The Masonic Cemetery served as the burial grounds for Freemasons, whose values of fraternity and secrecy add an element of mystery to the entire graveyard. Freemasonry was popular among influential men of the time, including prominent miners, which adds weight to the tales of hauntings. There are apparently significant cold spots throughout the entire graveyard where certain people are buried. People are reported hearing unexplained whispers. They also have reported hearing or seeing like orbs and light anomalies
Flickering.
floating
Flickering.
low to the ground and then high.
Cool.
We also have probably like the main crux of this whole story is the Lady in Black.
Yes.
This story deals with John Edward Cameron. He was a well-loved member in the community, and he died in his early 20s at age of 22.
Motherfucker.
In 1884.
Mm-hmm.
He was buried in the Masonic Cemetery, and his grave is among the most visited due to the legend of the Lady in Black. Now, what had happened with the Lady in Black is that John was a fireman, and he was also a product, like he was born in Central City.
What? I didn't know that.
Yep. His father was incredibly rich from mining as well as a couple of patents he had for mining procedures. John was a shoemaker, and he was kind of like a super well-known bachelor.
Hottie, would you say?
He's a hottie
That's what it is.
with a body, I'd say. Somewhere in the late 1890s, he kind of started getting sick, and people speculated maybe he was being poisoned by someone that was trying to take care of him. But he refused any woman that was near Central City. He had his eyes set on another woman that was located, I guess, across the valley on Bald Mountain. October 31st,
Okay.
1884.
Yeah.
1884. John dies of heart paralysis
At 22.
at the age of 22.
Cocaine.
I don't think they have cocaine. I could be wrong. I really don't know.
don't think so either. Mine dust.
But anyways,
That
So-
gold dust.
there's a whole thing that goes on for him because he is not just maybe the most eligible bachelor
In all Central City.
in all of Central City, but
A
he's also
shoemaker.
incredibly rich, and he's a shoemaker, and he has a woman that doesn't live in Central City that he is very, very focused on.
Up on Bald Mountain.
Yep.
Yep. I'm with you.
So
I'm right here.
there's the whole procession, the firefighters,
Mhm.
the shoe builders guild, all of the miners that are tied in with his father,
Okay.
that are all in this huge parade that are marching him to the graveyard. And at the very end was this woman that is trailing the entire thing in all black. And she stands at the grave for 3 days without moving.
With a demon.
We don't know.
No.
So
Guesses.
as people are interested in what is going on with this woman, eventually someone goes up to her and tries to talk to her. She says no words. Then the next day, the same woman that tried to talk to her comes back and she sees her walking over the hillside, and she puts a bunch of roses in John's there's this little I would call it a flower pot in front of his gravestone. And then as soon as this woman asks her who is she leaves and goes up over the hill again. She comes back every single day for the next year, almost, until I guess it'd be half a year. So we're talking about
Still a lot.
November 1st is the day she shows up.
Uh-huh.
She spends until June 22nd coming there every single day to put either columbines or roses in the pot that is outside of John's grave.
No explanation why each.
No one knows who she is.
Yep.
Which obviously speaks to the fact that she's not from Central City, because everyone would be like, that's fucking Betty.
What is Betty doing putting columbines?
God damn it,
Yeah.
Betty. Get the fuck over it.
She's from Bald Mountain,
Right?
I guess.
So we have to kind of speculate, one, who is this woman? Why does she care?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
From everything I've read, it's either she's a love interest. From what you said right now, she could be that lady on Bald
I
Mountain.
mean, she's 100% a love interest.
I've also heard that maybe she hates it
That's what I've
and
heard.
gets excited that he's dead. And
Or
she's just watches to make sure he doesn't ever come back.
she's condemned to paying a visit to his grave every single day
Because she murdered him.
through poison.
And so she's
That's what they're saying.
a ghost that has to show up.
The biggest thing, though, is that, like,
yeah, I could see that for sure.
what I've seen that's the most interesting to me is that this woman is the woman from Bald Mountain, and John proposed to her, and she said no, and he died of a broken heart.
No one dies of a broken heart.
He died of heart paralysis. I don't even know what that is.
It's a stroke.
Back then, they still had strokes.
You sure?
Yeah, dude.
Give her a gander. Look up heart paralysis.
I'll look it up right now.
Because I can't.
But anyway, so this is like what I've seen is they're like, he died of a broken heart because he asked that woman to marry him, and she said no. And now she feels guilty, so she has to visit his grave
Well, that's
every
exactly
single
what
day.
someone would say if they want to bring people to a grave. It's a tourist thing. It's like the Virgin Mary. They're like, oh yeah, this bottle of ketchup spilled, and now it looks like the Virgin Mary. Like, please come look and take pictures. That'll be $25. Or it could be like the goblins from Hopkinsville. Something like that, you know?
All right.
To name drop.
Cardioplasia
Mm-hmm.
is the medical term for paralysis of the heart. Other conditions that affect the heart include broken heart syndrome. This condition occurs when a person experiences a sudden stressful event that weakens the heart muscle. It can last a few days or weeks, but most people can recover completely with medication.
So can we just say this is probably anxiety?
Yeah, for sure. He got stressed the fuck out.
He had a panic attack in the 1800s
and fucking died. But, you know, so anyways, we're not done with the woman in black, though.
No, we're not.
Because eventually people start asking, who the fuck is this chick? And they kind of storm the graveyard one day while she's there. And she runs away and is not seen again for 2 years, right? Because they're all yelling at her.
Mm-hmm.
2 years go by, October 31st. I think we're in 1891.
Okay.
At this point.
Instead of
she shows back up.
1884 is when he died, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep. She's there for 6 months. And then okay, so we're in the late 1880s here. We're in 1886, I think, is when this happens.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, she doesn't show up every day anymore. She shows up, she starts to show up twice a year. April 5th.
And this is 6 years later, correct?
Correct. Okay. No. 2 years later.
2 years. Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
She shows up on April 5th, which no one is expecting. They keep remembering her showing up on October 31st.
Yes.
All of a sudden,
I thought it was November 1st.
Well, October 31st, November 1st. He died on October 31st.
Mm-hmm.
His funeral was held on November 1st. So technically, you're right. It is.
Yes,
November
I thought
1st.
when they show up is November 1st.
So she actually shows up the first time as a spectral figure, April 5th of 1886. And she does this as well as showing up every single April 5th and every single November 1st for the next 12 years until a whole council of people show up and are like, hey, who the fuck is this girl that keeps showing up at this grave?
She was alive
on these days only.
She's alive then?
No,
she was just...
Well, we don't know.
Yeah, good point.
No one really knows. These guys show up on October 31st of like 1895. There's like a whole town council that shows up to find this ghost woman.
Okay.
And they chase her. Like they show up, they see her, they go near her. She turns and walks away and goes up over the hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they get to the top of the hill, she's completely gone. She's disappeared in the forest. They're like, hey, that's really weird. So then they come back down and they find her again on April 5th. Mm-hmm. And then they they see her and they all rush there, but she's already gone by the time that they get there. And then they realize that there's a pattern. It's April 5th and November 1st. And we, to this day, find her showing up at the graveyard November 1st and April 5th.
Yes.
At dusk.
At dusk.
We're time to talk about it. We went there.
We did. We went to the graveyard
We went to all the graveyards except for the Oddfellows.
We didn't do the Oddfellows one.
But we're not going to talk about that, apparently.
The Masonic Cemetery? Is that what it's called?
Okay, so
that's the main one.
We're busy guys. Mm-hmm. We didn't get to leave Steamboat until around 5:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
At this time of year.
November 1st.
Yes. On November 1st. Mm-hmm. This time of year, it gets dark about 6 o'clock.
You don't have to explain yourself. So we went November 1st.
You take it away.
We didn't know, or I didn't know that we had to be there at dusk, but we both had to work. We're like, let's just fucking go after work, November 1st. We're going to see this fucking ghost, and she's going to slap us high five. She's going to explain why she's going to be there. None of those things happened, unfortunately. But we had a kick-ass time.
We did have a really good time, man. Do you want to talk more about
Sure. So
whole experience?
we drove down to the Knights of Pythias cemetery.
It was really cool.
It was fucked up. So
You didn't like it?
no, it was great. I just thought there was a lot of really fucked up things. Like I'd say, we went there and we saw definitely pagan, like wood pieces together, hanging off trees.
If you've seen True Detective, it's like similar types.
Yeah,
like what they called like the devil catchers. That like they're like these weird like woven branches and stuff like that that were hanging from trees. The Knights of Pythias Cemetery was super cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was tucked, like there was this big archway that had Knights of Pythias written on it. The gate was unlocked, and so we were able to just walk right in, but it butts right up into this aspen grove. And so the entire cemetery is like plotted around these trees that are in this aspen grove. So like we were honestly on like kind of like game trails walking through this whole thing. And it was scary for sure. Specifically like what has been done in like the modern era. There's certain sections that are like walled off, or I would say like they had like some, little tiny iron fences around things, but like it didn't keep anyone from going into these things. It was very much open. We got to go check it all out.
We didn't go over those iron fences.
It was honestly like, I would say rather difficult to know where graves were.
100%.
There was stones for bodies all over the place. And so we tried to just stick on the trails, and like, we didn't want to disturb anything, but it was really interesting and really, to me, really cool. But also I could definitely tell a little spooky because of how overgrown, like this, no one's been buried in the cemetery for, let's call it 100 years. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Like 1920s were like around when people were buried there.
But there was definitely like modern day shoes and
people were leaving stuff there. Like especially like there was lots of dolls.
And
that was fucking scary, dude. It was really spooky.
A shit ton of like carvings on aspen trees that looked like
runic. Right?
Please explain.
So
there were two people that don't know, because I obviously know what runic is because I'm very smart.
Yeah.
But
like
all the other people, please explain to it.
What we're going to call is like pagan symbology. Things that you see that are like, like tree of life, or like wheels, or triangles, like lots of different Celtic knots and stuff like that. Or like not necessarily Celtic knots, but like triangle knots. These kinds of things are like carved into trees surrounding all these different grave sites. And specifically, we're only talking about the Knights of Pythias here because the Masonic Cemetery was completely different. But the Knights of Pythias one was a very, very fucking scary cemetery to be in when it's completely fucking dark out.
So the runic is just pagan, right? Is that what you're saying?
I mean,
kind of danced around it.
Necessarily. Like, it depends. But I think that most of thinking that the Knights of Pythias came from Scottish and Irish folklore, it doesn't seem surprising to me, because like a lot of the stones had like some, whatever you want to call it, odes back to specifically pagan religions of the Nordic people. Okay.
So that's why you think the trees were all carved up?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the trees had a lot to do, like being in the trees meant a lot to these people.
Do you remember that there was just like a random tree covered in lights?
Yeah, that was weird.
And they were like, what the fuck is this? It's like 10:30 at night.
Yep.
And we walked to it, and it was a tree covered in
wrapped in LEDs.
Yeah, with like shoes at the bottom of it.
Yeah, it was pretty spooky. We will have like an entire walkthrough that we did of this cemetery, we went up through the Knights of Pythias Cemetery and then back through the regular Central City Cemetery. The, whatever you want to call it, non-denominational cemetery. The whole thing was quite eerie.
It was really spooky.
Yeah.
As spooky as you could think of walking through a graveyard at 10:30 at night.
It's definitely one of the spookier ones I've done.
Yeah,
because I've done some grave walkthroughs, and like the fact that it was stuck in the trees and like never knew what was where, like things were eerie. It felt like the Blair Witch Project.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, agree.
Like we were even like, while we were in there, hey, do we know what direction we're going?
Yeah, 100%.
Because I know that you were for sure like, dude, like, how do we get back to the car if we need to go back to the car? And I'm like, exactly. Oh, we just go over there. And you're like, are you sure? And I'm like,
well, you were just very excited and just kept walking. Like you wanted to go for.
I was so excited. I would have spent the entire night up there.
I know you would have. All right, so
the second cemetery was the Masonic Cemetery. And we did have to sneak into this one.
I can't confirm or deny that.
I did it. Sue me. I don't know if the podcast is for that.
Yeah.
All right, let's restart that whole second.
No,
I'm just kidding. So the main part of the Masonic Cemetery was finding John Cameron's grave.
Yes.
And we did find it, and it literally has this like pot that is right in front of his grave where you're like meant to place flowers. It is for sure. I don't know what the deal is, but there's no other stone in the entire cemetery that looks like it. He has this like very distinct flower pot right in front of his gravestone.
Yes.
It's weird. We didn't see any weird things, but we didn't see anything at the earlier cemetery.
No, we got some readings. That's about it.
We did.
Some electromagnetic readings, right? Is that EMF?
Yep.
Yeah, we got some high readings, specifically in the Masonic Temple.
It was a little funky just because there were some huge power lines that were running right next to the cemetery that I think obviously threw everything off.
Yep, there's also one that was just like slowly...
Yeah, there was some interesting stuff.
Dimming the entire time.
I think the most shocking thing that we found at the Masonic Cemetery was how young everyone is when they die. Like
very young.
Almost, I would say like 50% of the graves under 12 years old, which is really fucking sad.
Yeah, 100%.
There was a lot of young children that died early. It makes sense that these people would die that early and that young, and that there would be like these really sad... These people have a fuck ton of money. They're digging for gold, and if they hit it, they have a shit ton of money. So like they're going to put up these huge... Compared to the first cemetery, the Knights of Pythias Cemetery, these were like elaborate, big tombstones.
Yeah, for sure.
And having like, dude, some of them were like to our children that died before we did. Like these were the dedications on the
and they were way
headstones.
Bigger.
And like, fuck, dude, those are brutal. Like,
there's a 2-year-old there.
Yeah, like a 2 and a 4-year-old. The parents died like 25 years after. Those are heartbreaking stories.
100%.
I think that like there is something about cemeteries will always like pique my interest. I think there's something about the energy, right? You can't deny whether it's real or in your own brain. There's something about a cemetery that piques my interest. I want to know more. I want to stay there.
Something about a cemetery that piques my interest.
Something about a cemetery.
What are these dead people up to?
Not even that, man. It's just like,
what are these people dead for? Okay, I don't get what you're trying to say.
I don't know. I'm just talking.
You're excited. You're excited.
I did. I was very excited, and it was a super fun trip.
We had a great time.
You broke even.
Yeah, we all gambled.
I lost $100, which is a fucking win in my book.
Yeah.
We went to Blackhawk, obviously, afterwards. And yeah, I think it was pretty sweet. I think Jamie has maybe a little story for us, though, about a haunted hotel in Central City.
I don't, actually. I made that whole thing up.
What?
Yeah, I made it all.
You lied to me?
Just to fuck with you.
Why would
I knew you'd believe me. No, there's actually a haunted casino there. I was fucking with you. It's in
I'm sure there's a haunted casino.
It's in Blackhawk, though. It's not in Central City.
It literally takes 2 minutes to walk from one to the other.
No, it probably takes longer back in the day.
I could skate, dude, like Bart Simpson, dude. You could just jump in the skate.
You can't even skate. So,
Oh, it's the Gilpin?
The Gilpin.
That's the one that's on the
See-
fucking house. Like, it looks, it's been redone, but it definitely is like the one that looks like the, I don't know what,
It's
like
connected to
shaft?
It's connected to the Lodge Casino. No, it's not the. I don't think it's the Z or whatever you're talking about.
Are you sure?
No, it's actually still called the Gilpin Casino. But back then,
Oh, you're right. It is like the Z or whatever
No,
it's called.
so the Gilpin Hotel is what it used to be.
Yeah.
And it's still considered the Gilpin Casino. It's not the one you're talking about. And there is a story of Lucille Malone's ghost.
Who's Lucille Malone?
So she is a lady who happened to die at this hotel.
From what?
Her biggest story is she was in love with a guy in town.
Typical.
You know
Is
what?
it the Romeo and Juliet story?
No. So
She kills her.
you want to get somewhere?
No, you're going.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to keep the story moving.
Sorry if I'm boring you. So
You would never.
she's in love with this guy who gets tuberculosis. And back then, the only way to cure tuberculosis is to go somewhere warmer with more sunshine. So
When was this?
this is 1905. So his plan was to move to New Mexico. And so she was very distraught. She's like, I'm also moving to New Mexico. And she was about to tell him that. And then he walked across the street. And when he did that, he got ran over by a wagon of drunkards, is what they'd say. Like someone like me and you.
It's a wagon.
Yeah, a wagon of drunk people. Correct? That's what I forgot.
They were drunk and demonic for sure.
So she was so
Distraught.
or
She jumped right in the
so
river.
was James Cameron. She was so heartbroken.
John Cameron.
No, it was not James Cameron, sorry.
James Cameron, Avatar, Titanic.
So she went to her room she was staying at in this hotel on the second floor, jumped out, killed herself.
It's 2 stories tall.
She died, though.
You won't die from that high.
That's what it says right here.
It's straight up, you won't die from that.
What do you want?
You're showing me the pictures. You won't die.
You don't think you're...
Where the fuck did she die from, dude? Like, she's fallen fucking 20 feet.
She's fucking dead, and she's a ghost.
I literally
casino.
jumped that on my skis.
No, you fucking... Yeah, but you, like...
When I was younger. Okay.
Four.
When I was younger, I would jump that on my skis. But it doesn't kill me now.
How do I not... So you think she's alive? You think she made this whole thing up?
I think she's a witch and she's still alive.
No, you're fucking being a dumbass. She's dead. She jumped off the top of this building, died.
Oh, okay. That's 30 feet. That's different. I thought you said you jumped out a window.
She jumped out of the second story window. That's...
No. That's not 30 feet. That's 20 feet. 24 at the most.
You're holding on to the wrong parts of this.
I get it. I'm calling bullshit.
Okay, so she's obviously still alive.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, just like, you can't let me tell a fucking story without you being like, this is fucking stupid. Obviously, this didn't happen. She fucking is alive. I listened to you for the last 30 minutes, and you're like, oh, please tell me a story. I'm like, no, that's fucking dumb. No fucking way. No, she's fucking dead. Either from A, it being that she was 22 in 1905, or B, where it says in the story that she jumped out of a fucking building and died. Let it go. Don't. That's it.
Hands off.
You're so fucking dumb. You're so dumb. You just fight to fight.
I don't fight just to fight.
Yes, you do.
People don't die from jumping from 25 feet up.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Go fucking jump out this building right now.
I don't want to. I don't want to
Go fucking...
paralyzed, not die.
Anyways, that's all I have for this. Do you have anything else to go?
Folks, I would say, so we do have an entire video that we're going to release where we do tour these graveyards.
Mm-hmm.
I highly suggest going and checking them out. It's super fun. I had a blast doing this. We also, not only was it just me and Jamie, we had Chevy Boy Jake.
You know Jake. Talk about him a lot in the podcast.
As our, like, ghost hype man. I would say. He was fucking awesome. It was so good to have him there. I think it was a fucking blast. I had a really good time doing all this.
Of course,
and then we did ghost hunting, and then we also got to go gamble. And I can't think of a better 1-2 punch than that.
Either that or jumping off a building and not dying.
You can jump on buildings and not die.
You fucking jump off a building and die.
You're mumbling.
I'm pissed off. That's fine.
And I think with that,
one fucking story to tell. One sort of fucking tell. Hammer your fucking mouth on it.
I get it. And I think that it's probably real because, like, I can definitely see people just dying all the time in fucking the Wild West. But 20 feet, not gonna die. Unless she's fucking good, dude. Did she, like, full on, like, swan dive? Had to have been a swan dive. Did she land under a horse's hoof? Did the wheel run over her? My guess is that the drunk dudes that, like, bailed on her just fucking beat the fuck out of her and she died.
The drunk dudes killed her soon-to-be husband. With that being said, thank you so much for listening. I'm definitely not pissed off at Peter.
Not at all.
Please.
I still love you, though.
If you love to listen to us be pissed off at each other and call each other wrong, or call each other right, please like and subscribe. And with that being said, make sure to drink down those.
Drink them down.